Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. My name's Marcus, and let me start by saying this. Being a stepfather can feel like pouring your soul into a void sometimes. If you've ever stepped into that role, you might get what I mean. You give everything, your time, your effort, your love, and sometimes it just doesn't come back. You try to fill a gap left by someone else, hoping your presence will be enough. But sometimes it's not. I learned this the hard way one snowy Christmas evening in Portland, around a dinner table filled with family, when I made a choice that left everyone stunned. When I first met Elena, the woman who'd become my wife, she was a spark of ambition. She had this drive, this energy, like she was carving her own path through life. Back then, I had no clue about the parts of her story she kept tucked away. To me, she was a single woman in her late 20s, navigating life in Seattle, same as me. We started dating, taking it slow, letting the connection grow. I was falling for her, hard, in a way that felt bigger than words. But there was something she hadn't told me yet, something big. Elena was a mother. She had a daughter named Lila, 5 years old, living with her grandparents down in Eugene. Elena didn't mention Lila at first, and when she finally did, I'll admit, it threw me. She'd visit Lila when she could, but her daughter wasn't part of her everyday life back then. One night, over coffee in a quiet diner, Elena opened up about her past. She'd gotten pregnant young, at 19, with a guy she thought was her forever. His name was Jared, and she loved him fiercely until she told him about the pregnancy. He denied Lila was his, broke her heart, and left her to pick up the pieces. Eventually, he admitted Lila was his, but by then, Elena saw him for what he was. Unreliable, always in trouble, not father material. She wanted better for her daughter. I listened, my heart heavy for her. I didn't see her as someone with baggage. I saw a woman who'd been through hell and come out stronger. Her story didn't push me away. It pulled me closer, not just to her, but to Lila too. That night, I made a promise. If we were going to build something real, I wouldn't just be with Elena. I'd be there for Lila, too. I meant it, even if I didn't fully grasp what stepping into that role would mean. I loved Elena, and I believed a child born from a tough story deserved a safe place to land. So, I chose them both, not knowing what it would cost me down the line. After Elena and I got married, I wanted Lila to live with us. Elena hesitated at first, but agreed, and soon Lila moved from Eugene to our home in Portland. Those early days were good. Lila was our only child then, and I threw myself into being a dad. Blood didn't matter to me. She was mine from the moment she arrived. I wanted her to feel safe, loved, chosen. A couple of years later, Elena and I welcomed our second daughter, Ava. I was determined that having a biological child wouldn't change how I treated Lila. Both girls were my daughters, equal in my eyes. Whether it was bedtime stories, school plays, or just joking around at dinner, I made sure Lila never felt less than Ava. We weren't rolling in money, but we got by. I knew time moves fast, and college costs were only climbing. I didn't want either girl starting life drowning in debt, so I started a college fund, 2 separate accounts, one for Lila, one for Ava. I didn't tell Elena. I just set it up quietly, putting in the same amount for each girl every month. It wasn't much at first, but with time and interest, it grew. I figured it was my job to give them a shot at a good future. But as Lila hit her teens, things shifted. The little girl who used to hug me when I came home from work started pulling away. She'd roll her eyes, shrug off my questions, spend hours on her phone. I thought it was just a phase, teenagers, right? I kept showing up, buying her favorite snacks, helping with homework, tried to stay in her world. Then I learned the real reason for the change, and it wasn't from her. Elena let it slip one night. Lila had been talking to Jared, her biological father. Apparently, Jared had tracked down Lila's number and reached out, saying he wanted to be in her life. When I asked why no one told me, Elena said she didn't think it was her place to stop him. He's her dad, she said like that explained it. Maybe it'll be good for her. Those words stung. I'd been Lila's dad in every way that mattered, tucking her in, cheering at her soccer games, saving for a future. Now, I felt like an outsider in my own family. I didn't argue, though. I just nodded and walked away, but something in me cracked. From then on, Lila got colder. She'd snap at me, ignore my rules, act like I was an annoyance. I kept trying, buying her clothes she liked, keeping her tutoring sessions going, treating her the same as Ava. I thought if I stayed steady, she'd come around. I told myself she was just a kid, figuring out who she was. But deep down, I wonder if she'd ever see me as the man who chose her, not just the guy who married her mom. Life in our Portland home wasn't the same after that bombshell. I've been pouring my heart into being Lila's dad, but her growing distance made me question everything. Let me take you through what happened next. It's a story of trying to hold on, only to face moments that pushed me closer to a breaking point. Lila was 16 now, and her attitude toward me had shifted from indifference to something sharper, almost defiant. She'd come home late, skip family dinners, and brush off my attempts to talk. I'd ask about her day, and she'd mutter, "Fine," before disappearing to her room. I kept up the effort, though, helping with her school projects, making sure her soccer gear was ready, and adding to her college fund every month, same as I did for Ava. I told myself this was just teenage rebellion, that she'd come around. But the truth was, Jared's presence in her life was changing her view of me. One evening, I overheard Lila on the phone in her room, laughing and saying, "Yeah, my real dad gets it. He's not always on my case like Marcus." That stung deeper than I can describe. I wasn't on her case. I was worried. Portland's not a small town, and I knew the risks of a teenager staying out late or hanging with the wrong crowd. But to her, I was just the overbearing stepfather, not the man who'd been there since she was 5. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I sat in the living room, staring at the TV without really watching, wondering where I'd gone wrong. For Lila's 17th birthday, I wanted to do something special, something to bridge the gap between us. She'd been dropping hints about wanting a car. Not just any car, but a sleek BMW X3 she'd seen online. She'd shown me a picture once, her eyes lighting up as she called it her dream ride. I knew a luxury car was out of our budget. Between the cost, insurance, and maintenance, it wasn't practical for a teenager. So, after weeks of research, I settled on a reliable Toyota Corolla. It was safe, fuel-efficient, and perfect for a new driver heading to college soon. I picked a deep blue color she liked, paid for the first year of insurance, and had her name put on the title. I thought she'd be thrilled. The morning of her birthday, I parked the Corolla in the driveway with a big red bow on it. Elena, Ava, and I stood outside, waiting for Lila to see it. When she walked out, her eyes landed on the car, and her face fell. No smile, no excitement, just a flat, "Oh." I handed her the keys, saying, "It's yours, Lila. I tested it myself. It's solid, safe, and ready for you." She looked at me, then the car, and said, "I thought you were getting me the BMW." I laughed, thinking she was joking, but her expression was dead serious. "A Corolla," she said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "That's not what I wanted." I explained calmly that a BMW was too expensive, that the Corolla was built to last and wouldn't cost a fortune to maintain. I told her I'd chosen it with her future in mind, college, road trips, independence. But she just shook her head, muttered whatever, and walked back inside, leaving the keys on the hood. Elena glanced at me, her eyes apologetic, but she didn't say anything. Ava, only 10, looked confused, clutching my hand. That moment burned. I'd spent months saving, planning, hoping to make Lila feel special, and she'd tossed it aside like it was nothing. From then on, the car became a symbol of her resentment. She'd make snide comments about it, the lame Toyota, or not my style, and I'd hear her tell friends she deserved better. I brought it up with Elena one night, my voice low so the girls wouldn't hear. "She's acting like I'm failing her," I said. "I'm trying, Elena, but it's never enough." Elena sighed, brushing it off. "She's just a teenager, Marcus. Don't take it personally." But I did. It wasn't just the car. It was the way she looked at me like I was an obstacle, not a father. Things got worse when Lila started staying out past curfew. One night, she came home at 1 a.m., her phone off, no explanation. I was waiting in the kitchen, more worried than angry. "Lila, you can't just disappear like that," I said. "It's not safe. Just let us know where you are." She rolled her eyes. "You're not my boss, Marcus. Stop acting like you control me." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not controlling you. I care about you. She scoffed, her words cutting like a blade. You're not even my real dad. Why do you care so much? That hit like a punch to the gut. For years, I'd been her dad, driving her to school, cheering at her games, saving for her future. Now I was just Marcus, the guy trying too hard. I looked at Elena, waiting for her to step in, to say something, anything to back me up. She just stood there, silent, her eyes on the floor. That silence hurt more than Lila's words. I felt alone, like I was fighting for a family that didn't see me. The final straw came a few months later. Lila had been hanging out with a new group, kids with reputations for trouble. I'd heard rumors about parties, drinking, and worse. One evening, I sat her down. Lila, I'm not trying to lecture you, but be careful who you're around. Not everyone has your best interests at heart. Her response was cold, deliberate. You're doing too much, Marcus. Even my real dad doesn't act like this. She paused, then added, You're just a stepdad. Stay in your lane. Something broke in me that night. I'd given everything, my time, my money, my heart, and it wasn't enough. Elena, standing nearby, said nothing. No defense, no support. I looked at them both, my voice steady but raw. I've been your dad since you were 5, Lila. I chose you. But if that's how you feel, I hear you. I walked away, my chest tight, knowing things couldn't go back to how they were. Lila was 17 now, a senior in high school, and her defiance had become a wall between us. She'd stay out late, ignore my texts, and hang with a crowd I didn't trust, kids known for skipping class and worse. I'd see her sneaking in at 2 a.m., her eyes daring me to say something. I tried to talk to her, not as a disciplinarian, but as someone who cared. Lila, I'm not trying to control you, I'd say. I just want you to be safe. Her response was always the same. A smirk, a shrug, or a sharp, You're not my dad, Marcus. Each time, it felt like she was erasing years of memories. Me teaching her to ride a bike, cheering at her soccer games, saving for her college fund. Elena, my wife, stayed on the sidelines. I'd tell her how Lila's behavior worried me, how her words hurt, but she'd just say, She's figuring herself out. Give her space. Space. I'd given her everything, love, time, a car she barely drove because it wasn't a BMW. I'd set up a college fund for her, matching every dollar I put into Ava's, our younger daughter. But Elena's silence felt like betrayal. I was fighting for Lila alone, and it was wearing me down. One night, things had new low. Lila had lied about where she was going, said she was studying at a friend's house, but didn't come home until 3 a.m. I was up, waiting in the dark kitchen, my worry turning to anger. When she walked in, I kept my voice steady. Lila, you can't keep doing this. You said you'd be home by 10. Where were you? She laughed, a cold, mocking sound. Why do you care, Marcus? You're not my real dad. My actual dad doesn't grill me like this. Then she leaned in, her voice low and cutting. You're trying way too hard for someone who's just temporary. That word, temporary, hit like a sledgehammer. I'd been there for her since she was 5, building a life for her, loving her like my own. I looked at Elena, standing in the doorway, her face blank. Say something, I said, my voice breaking. She hesitated, then muttered, Lila, go to your room. That was it. No defense, no acknowledgement of the knife Lila had just twisted in me. I felt like I was standing in a house that wasn't mine anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my office, staring at the college fund statements. 2 accounts, one for Lila, one for Ava, each with years of my savings. I'd done that for Lila, believing she'd see me as her dad someday. But her words kept echoing, temporary. I didn't confront her again. Instead, I doubled down, trying to show her I wasn't going anywhere. I kept paying for her soccer lessons, bought her the art supplies she loved, and never treated her differently from Ava. But the distance grew, and so did her resentment. Christmas was coming, and I saw it as a chance to reach her. Lila had mentioned a leather jacket she'd seen at a boutique in downtown Portland. Nothing flashy, but pricey for a teenager. I tracked it down, spent more than I should have, and wrapped it with a card that read, To Lila from Dad. I didn't care if she called me Marcus. I wanted her to feel what that word meant to me. I hoped this gesture, small as it was, might crack the wall between us. The holiday started off warm. Our dining room was filled with the smell of roasted turkey and pine from the Christmas tree. Elena, Ava, Lila, and a few relatives sat around the table, laughing and passing plates. For a moment, it felt like the old days when Lila would crawl into my lap for stories. Then Elena's brother, Tom, raised a glass and said, "To Marcus for being such a great dad to these girls." The room went quiet, and I felt all eyes on me. I smiled, expecting nothing but hoping for something, maybe a nod from Lila, a sign she saw me. Instead, Lila snorted, loud and deliberate, her eyes fixed on her plate. "Some people don't deserve that title," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. The air sucked out of the room. Ava, only 11, looked from Lila to me, her face confused. Elena stared at her lap, saying nothing. My chest tightened, like someone had poured concrete over my heart. Every moment I'd spent on Lila, every sacrifice, every dollar, every sleepless night, felt like it was being thrown back in my face. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just stood, my chair scraping the floor, and walked to the Christmas tree. I picked up the wrap jacket, the card still attached, and looked at Lila. Her eyes met mine, defiant, like she was daring me to react. "Don't touch this," I said, my voice calm but cold. "Or the car. Or anything I've given you." I paused, the words heavy in my throat. "And I just canceled your college fund. Good luck." Then I turned and walked out of the room, the gift still under my arm. I wasn't bluffing. That night, alone in my office, I logged into the college fund accounts. Lila's had $115,000. Years of my savings, my belief in her future. With a few clicks, I transferred every cent to Ava's fund. It wasn't about money. It was about respect, about loyalty, about the family I tried to build. Lila had made her choice, and now I was making mine. That night, after I transferred Lila's $115,000 college fund to Ava's, I blocked her on my phone and social media. It wasn't about being petty. It was about protecting what was left of me. I had nothing more to say. If Lila wanted answers, she could talk to her mother, Elena. By morning, I learned she'd packed a bag and left for Jared's place, her biological father, in Tacoma. Elena told me Lila was furious, calling me controlling, manipulative, even cruel. She said I was trying to buy her love with gifts and money, then punishing her when she didn't play along. I didn't respond. The part of me that used to ache for her approval had gone quiet. The house felt different without Lila. Ava, my 11-year-old, noticed it most. She'd ask, "Where's Lila? Is she coming back?" I'd tell her, "She's with her dad right now," keeping my tone neutral. But inside, I was wrestling with guilt and resolve. Had I been too harsh? Should I have given Lila another chance? Then I'd remember her words, her dismissal of everything I'd done, and Elena's silence. That hardened me. I'd given Lila a decade of my life. Time, money, love, and she called me temporary. I wasn't going to chase someone who didn't want me. Elena didn't say much for days. The tension hung heavy, like a fog we couldn't shake. Then one evening, she sat me down in the living room, her voice soft but pointed. "Marcus, you can't give up on her," she said. "She's just a kid. She made a mistake." I looked at her, my jaw tight. "She didn't make a mistake, Elena. She made a choice. She's been making it for years, and you've let her." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "You stood there every time she disrespected me, saying nothing. You let her call me names, dismiss me, and you never once backed me up. I'm done being the only one fighting for this family." Elena's eyes welled up, but she didn't argue. She knew I was right. She'd stayed silent when Lila called me just a stepdad, when she mocked the car, when she threw my love back in my face. That silence had spoken louder than any of Lila's words. "What kind of example are you setting for Ava?" Elena tried, her voice shaking. I cut her off. "What kind of example are you setting, letting Lila walk all over me? If you want to fix this, talk to her. I'm done." She didn't say another word, and I didn't expect her to. Months passed, 6 to be exact. Life settled into a new normal. I focused on Ava, helping with her homework, taking her to ballet, making sure she felt secure. The college fund I'd redirected to her was growing, a safety net for her future. I didn't reach out to Lila. and she didn't contact me. I heard through Elena that she was living with Jared, enrolled in community college in Tacoma, and figuring things out. I didn't ask for details. I made my peace, or so I thought. Then one afternoon, Ava came to me, her eyes big and hesitant. She sat on the couch, twisting her hands. "Dad, can Lila come home?" she asked, her voice small. I took a deep breath, keeping my face calm. I didn't send her away, sweetheart. She chose to leave. The door's always open if she wants to come back. Ava nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She missed her sister, and that tugged at me, but I wasn't ready to reopen old wounds. A week later, Elena brought it up again. She'd been quiet since our last talk, but Ava's question must have stirred something. "Lila's been asking about you," she said cautiously. "She wants to come home." I looked at her, my expression unchanged. "She can stay here," I said, "but I'm done being her father." She made that clear. Elena opened her mouth, then closed it. She knew I wasn't budging. A few days later, Lila showed up. She stood in the doorway, a duffel bag at her feet, looking smaller than I remembered. Not in size, but in presence. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded, and we sat in the living room, just the two of us. She started speaking, her voice shaky. "I tried calling you, texting you, everything. You blocked me." I nodded again, saying nothing. She took a breath. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I messed up. I didn't mean what I said at Christmas. I was angry, confused. I thought things would be different with my dad." She cried then, tears streaming down her face. She said she'd realized her mistake, that she'd taken me for granted. I listened, my face still, my heart guarded. I'd heard her apologies before, small ones after smaller fights, but this felt different. Still, I wasn't ready to let her back in. "You can stay," I said, my voice flat. "But I'm not responsible for you anymore. You burned that bridge, Lila. If you disrespect me again, you're gone for good." She nodded, wiping her eyes, and didn't argue. For the first time, she seemed to understand what she'd lost. Lila moved back into our house, but things were different. She was quieter, less defiant, like the weight of her choices had settled on her shoulders. She'd enrolled in community college in Portland, picking up where she'd left off, and got a part-time job at a coffee shop to cover her expenses. I kept my distance, not out of anger, but self-preservation. I'd poured a decade into being her dad, saving for her future, cheering at her games, buying her that blue Corolla she'd scorned, only to be called temporary. I wasn't ready to open that door again, not without proof she'd changed. Elena, my wife, tried to bridge the gap. She'd catch me in the kitchen, saying, "She's trying, Marcus. She's different now." I'd nod, but my response was always the same. "She needs to show it, not just say it." Ava, our 11-year-old, was the only one who seemed to bring Lila out of her shell. They'd giggle over movies or braid each other's hair, and seeing that warmed me, even if I kept it to myself. But Lila and I, we were polite strangers sharing a house. I'd ask about her classes, she'd answer briefly, and that was it. The college fund stayed with Ava, the car stayed parked, and the leather jacket I'd bought for Christmas stayed in my closet. One evening, I overheard Lila on the phone in her room. The door was cracked, and her voice was low, tired. "It's not what I thought it'd be," she said. "Dad's place, it was a mess. His wife didn't want me there, kept saying I was a burden. I thought he'd be different, but he wasn't." I paused outside, my heart catching. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but her words painted a picture. Jared's life in Tacoma wasn't the fairy tale Lila had imagined. His wife saw her as an extra expense. His home was chaotic, and he didn't have the stability I'd worked to give her. "I messed up," she said, her voice breaking. Marcus was right about him. I walked away, my chest tight. Part of me wanted to go to her, but I held back. Words weren't enough anymore. A few weeks later, Lila asked to talk again. We sat in the backyard, the autumn air cool, the leaves crunching under our feet. She looked at me, her eyes steady but nervous. "I need to tell you what happened," she said. "When I went to Dad's, I thought it'd be better. He'd call me sometimes, saying he wanted to be there, that he'd make up for lost time. But when I got there, it was hard. He didn't have room for me, not really. His wife would complain about money, about me eating their food, using their space. I felt like a guest who'd overstayed. I kept thinking about home, about you, Ava, Mom. I kept thinking about the car, the jacket, everything you did. I was so stupid. She paused, wiping her eyes. I said awful things to you, Marcus. I didn't mean them, but I know I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm sorry. I listened, my face still, my heart a tangle of emotions. Why didn't you tell me it'd be like that? I asked. She shook her head. I thought he was my dad, my real dad. I thought he'd be, I don't know, like you. But he wasn't. You were there all those years, and I pushed you away. Her voice cracked. I don't know how to fix it. I took a deep breath, the weight of her words settling in. Lila, you made your choice. I made mine. You can stay here, but trust is earned. I'm not ready to be your dad again. She nodded, tears falling. I know. I want to try. I want to be better. I looked at her, seeing the little girl I'd once carried on my shoulders, and felt a crack in the wall I'd built. Then show me, I said, not with words, with actions. She nodded again, and we sat in silence, the air heavy with possibility. Months passed, and Lila kept her word. She worked hard, helped around the house, spent time with Ava. She didn't ask for the car or the money, didn't push me. One night, she left a note on my desk. Thank you for letting me come back. I'm trying. Lila. I read it, my throat tight, and put it away. I wasn't ready to soften, but I was watching. A year later, things were better. Not perfect, but better. Lila was rebuilding her life, and I was starting to see glimpses of the girl I'd raised. I didn't give her the college fund back, but I started a small savings account for her, just in case. Maybe one day, I'd tell her. For now, I was okay with the quiet progress. Looking back, I wonder what I could have done differently. Maybe nothing. Maybe this was the path we had to walk. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to draw a line with someone you love? What did you do? Drop your thoughts below. I read them all.